Hello, my name is Čedomir Nestorović and I am professor at ESSEC Business School in Singapore. And today we talk about the immigration crisis in Europe. The immigration crisis in Europe is referring to the situation in 2015 when more than 1 million of new immigrants poured into Europe. This crisis has two parts. The first one is the humanitarian part, and the second one is the economic part. The humanitarian part is answering a refugee crisis in mainly three countries: the people coming from Syria, people coming from Afghanistan, and people coming from Iraq. So in order to give them shelter, in order to give them protection, this is how the Europe has answered to the crisis. Concerning the economic one, it is referring to this particular situation in Europe where the population is shrinking, Europe is getting older. So there are two basic questions that people and especially politicians are starting to ask. Who is going to work in companies when people are retiring? And who is going to pay for the welfare state and pension retirement schemes for the workers who are going to retire? In the European Union, in 2010, there were 4 people who were working and supporting one elderly person getting the retirement scheme, and this person was over 65. If we project to the year 2060, in that case we will have only 2 persons supporting one elderly person. From the economic point of view, it becomes extremely hard to sustain. So this is why in many European countries there was an economic rationale why to accept immigrants in Europe. The economic rationale is not shared by everyone, and especially in Eastern Europe, where scores of countries have stopped immigration in their countries. Among the reasons that they are advancing, they are saying that alternatives to immigration have not been studied seriously. One of them can be to ask people to have more children, and in that case we won't have problems concerning the renewal of the population. History shows that it is very hard to implement. The second one is to change the existing welfare system and ask people to work more and not to stop working, let's say, at the age of 65, but go even further up to practically the age of 75. In that case, the pressure on retirement schemes will not be the same one. The third one is to ask people to contribute much more to the private schemes. So in that case, the burden on the state will not be as heavy as it is today, and the population, the workers, will choose by themselves. The private companies, they will contribute. And finally, one element which is always put on the table is to say, if private companies need more workers, and in that case it is to private companies to pay for that, why would the state pay for all this? All these alternatives are existing, however, they have not been taken into consideration. The first move was to say we need more immigrants and the situation will be much simpler to control. Looking ahead, there are two more radical questions to ask. The first one is, why stopping immigration? Meaning, why accepting only 1.2 or 1.5 million people in Europe when we have dozens of millions of people who want to come to Europe? In that case, we are choosing only the first people who came to Europe, and we are closing the doors to the others. So here we have a problem of equity. And the second thing is, why shouldn't we accept that the population is going down? Meaning, if one country is passing from 8 million persons to 5 million persons, let's accept this natural decrease of population, and there is no necessity to increase immigration in order to keep on with this population. So it means that alternatives exist. It means also that basic questions have to be asked. This maybe has not been made in the past, but today Europe is clearly divided between Western Europe on one side, which is focusing on the rationale for immigration, and Eastern Europe on the other side, which is asking alternatives and these kind of questions.